Brick is the blood of British buildings. The life cycle of bricks should be calculated from the extraction stage of natural resources. Then, raw materials are transported to brickworks and construction sites. Eventually, brick buildings are always discarded in landfills. Conventional cycles need to be reversed into local cycles. We take inspiration from the famous Preston model, which is the cooperation of local anchor institutions and adopting progressive procurement policies to redirect wealth to the local community. Our project proposes the translation of the radical procurement policies to the building industry. This diagram shows the potential of procurement in Lancashire County, where the building and facility construction and maintenance services accounts for the largest portion. Thus, the building industry has great potential to build local wealth. In Lancashire, construction waste like paint and asbestos in landfills resulted in soil and water pollution, and the remaining capacity of old ones is declining, and some have been closed, while new ones have been generated to meet the growing demand. By 2030, based on assumptions of current rates, the remaining capacity will be negative. Waste disaster is looming as landfills close to tipping point, and Preston Clifton Marsh landfill next to the River Ribble is certainly no exception. Landfill zero is our ambition. Addressing those issues is urgent. Wealth needs to be created and shared by local stakeholders rather than distant corporations. Stakeholders here refer to local dwellers, local councils, and local building professionals. Local dwellers face fewer poverty, high energy bills, but wages are low. The housing is aged, and the thermal comfort is low. It is important to contact them with local suppliers and offer them support through the council. Local building professionals face shrinking job prospects, exacerbated by global competition. They need support to build local networks, skills, and retrofitting policies that ensure local material cycles. Local councils need to guarantee a decent living for local dwellers while supporting local business. They need support to assess the situation for decision-making and dialogue with local dwellers and building professionals. By engaging the three perspectives, we aim to reverse the waste issue in Preston through a community wealth building model for the retrofitting industry. For the City Council, the landfill crisis has increased its environmental vulnerability and the financial burden. We've created a multi-objective decision-making tool to involve local councils and dwellers in decisions on retrofitting policies, in order to rationalize the allocation of the limited budget and create collective wealth in the process of policy implementation. The housing condition criteria mainly evaluates the energy performance and building age in each municipality. The retrofitting affordability criteria represents the ability to implement the waste-to-wealth scheme, including the sub-criteria of government incentives that can be actually accepted, the number of employment, the available recycled materials, and infrastructures. Take Preston as an example. This tool evaluates the housing conditions and affordability for each municipality. Compared with the current situation, if the waste-to-wealth retrofitting scheme is not implemented, it will pose a serious threat to the environment in 2050. Our tool visualizing the areas with urgency and potential to prioritize interventions, highlighting the cost and benefits for each municipality. Local councils, dwellers, and other stakeholders could be engaged in our website. In Phase 1, 929 buildings, which are mainly social rental houses, could be retrofitted first, with partially subsidized by the council. In Phase 2, the procurement policies would be implemented through larger regions and extended to other types of housing, with smoother cooperation, generating related jobs for building professionals. In Phase 3, the housing conditions could be widely improved, including their energy performance. Only regular maintenance services would be needed. By 2050, the total carbon emissions from the building industry would be reduced. Our decision-making tool has the flexibility to adapt the databases and parameters to the context of similar cities. My family lived in this 54-year-old social rental house. Our annual heating cost was £354. However, winter was cold, humid, and sunshine was not enough. There was an abandoned building nearby. By using the decision-making tool, the council found that the retrofitting priority of our municipality was the third of sixth, and the housing condition score could be upgraded to a second of sixth. This house was the most common social rental house type to show how we built community wealth by retrofitting the whole system. The retrofitting budget was supported by the council, and they put us in contact with the local professional retrofitting network. The utilization of recycled materials reduced my financial burden. The council and local construction companies advised that it could be retrofitted by adding insulation to brick walls, adding fiberglass to the roof, replacing UPVC windows, installing gutters, installing solar panels, and adding a greenhouse extension. Some materials came from the abandoned building, which was dismantled and transformed into a recycling workshop. It was operated by local builders and demolition companies, storing and selling recycled materials. Waste materials could be combined into furniture and artworks. After several pilot projects, the brownfield was transformed into a pocket park and a showcase, as its facilities and framing were made from waste materials. It also could be a place where the community buys and sells waste material products for further retrofitting projects. Local retrofitting companies have grown, creating local employment and local knowledge and training facilities linked to existing universities. New jobs could be created. Our community finally was able to run the waste to wealth model. The house was retrofitted and no longer have to pay expensive energy bills. Our health, living conditions, life quality, and the public environment have been retrofitted. Many local companies and individuals could be offered jobs. All stakeholders could participate in this process and are the ultimate beneficiaries. Most Preston buildings came from the Preston Stone Cooperative Quarry 100 years ago. That quarry boomed with the building industry at the expense of extracting natural resources. Clay and stones were transported to the brickworks. Thomas Croft was a famous one. It produced 100,000 bricks a week, providing local employment. Now, the brickworks have been restored from history. Our proposed model of the localized building industry does not rely on extraction, but on local cycles. In Preston city centre, a building originally to be demolished, we suggest that it could be dismantled rather than demolished to landfills. Local demolition companies like Bradley Ltd have the potential to be transformed into dismantling companies. Materials could be transported to the recycling centers nearby, which can enable them to be cleaned and inspected. Anchor institutions like city councils can increase their budget and create local related jobs. Universities in anchor institutions can conduct regular training on technologies related to dismantling and recycling. The potential buyers or retrofitted target could be the 5,000 social rental houses first. The business market is huge. In this new brick procurement system, suppliers are abandoned buildings or brownfields rather than natural resources. Keep the wealth local is the core of our waste to wealth policy. Wealth refers to local goods, employment, and investment. Our project is answering 3 urgent issues. First is fuel inequity, where the energy produced was transported to the other cities. Bills for locals were too heavy. 12.1% of the Northwest was living in fuel poverty before 1990. This situation worsened to 15.2% in 2010. As the main energy source has shifted from coal to gas and renewable, and the ownership has shifted from government to privatized sectors, this issue hasn't been addressed. In this regard, our answer is to reduce energy consumption by improving the energy efficiency of houses while creating local wealth and improving people's energy affordability. Second is the landfill crisis. Similar to the UK, in the conventional cycle, building materials often end up in landfills, which leads to global landfill crisis. The global north generated the most construction waste. Instead of burying it in their own land, they transported it into the global south. That's why the global south has the largest and most dangerous landfills. Landfill zero is our ambition. Instead of being discarded to the landfill, the construction waste could be transformed into wealth. Third is the retrofitting industry. Up to now, many small companies and organizations in the UK have been committed to exploring retrofitting techniques from the perspective of architectural professionals, but they haven't been able to address systematic cooperation through multi-stakeholders. We need to retrofit the whole system, redefine the wealth not only in economic but also in environmental and social value. We call this method waste to wealth, which is to increase the longevity of building materials, reduce global material chains and carbon emissions while improving inhabitants' experiences, keep the collective wealth in the local community.